The story begins with a man who is moving to a new city with his young son Minho. The two are hauling their belongings in a small truck to start a new life. The thing is, Minho's father Kim is running away from his own debts. Years of loans and borrowing had left him buried so deep in arrears that the only option left was to abandon the city entirely. Paying it back wasn't even a realistic possibility anymore. After a long journey, father and son finally arrive in their new town. They begin unloading boxes into a modest house. Minho's mother and sister live with his grandmother instead, since his mother has been sick for years and only grandma can care for her. Minho, meanwhile, stays with his father to continue his studies. That evening, over their first dinner in the new home, father and son talk about what lies ahead and how they'll manage their fresh start. Later, while wandering down his unfamiliar street, Minho spots a heavy-set boy behaving oddly, staring at him far too long, in a way that makes him uneasy. Minho couldn't make sense of the boy's problem. Eventually the boy shuffled away, leaving Minho still scratching his head. Days pass and now Minho enrolls in the local school. On his very first day, neatly dressed, he arrives only to feel the eyes of other students on him, curious stares at his innocent, soft look. As he reaches his classroom, a group of notorious boys crosses his path. They belong to the Bull Gang, led by Jaenon, a senior so feared that even the school's rules seem to bend according to his whims. Minho quickly befriends his classmate Sam, who points toward the group and whispers, "That's the most dangerous gang in school." He explains there are actually two rival gangs here, Bull Gang and Bai Gang, both equally feared and dangerous. He warns Minho to steer clear, otherwise he'd be sucked into their mess. But Minho isn't concerned at all because all he cares about is his studies. When class begins, their new teacher walks in. Minho nearly bursts out laughing as her look is a mix of military drill sergeant and comic character, but she introduces herself calmly as Miss Park and starts the lesson. Sam mutters from behind that although she might look eccentric, she's no ordinary teacher. The principal personally recruited her because of her talent. During break, an older-looking student calls Minho over. Thinking he's some staff member, Minho innocently asks, "Uncle, did you call me?" This earns him a scowl, because the boy was actually a classmate, just older and built like an uncle. Minho had, unintentionally, achieved what no bully could as he insulted someone just by being polite. At that moment, Minho recognizes him as the same chubby boy from the street. His name is Bam Bam, and he's known as one of the strongest students in school. Bam Bam explains that they're neighbors and extends his hand in friendship, promising to help whenever needed. Relieved, Minho returns to class, where he meets Bam Bam's best friend, Jin, another powerhouse with excellent fighting skills. Minho feels lucky to have found strong allies on day one. It doesn't take long to discover that Bam Bam has one overwhelming passion: food. He's always munching whenever given the chance. One afternoon, Jin is standing near the classroom window when a senior from upstairs begins mocking him, cursing, and trying to belittle him. Jin doesn't back down and warns the senior. Soon after, that senior, Beam, storms down with his crew to confront Jin. Beam threatens Jin, but Bam Bam wakes up from his nap and steps in. He warns coldly that if Beam lays a finger on his friend, he won't walk away. Beam tries to provoke him, but before it can escalate, Miss Park storms in, scolds Beam's team and kicks them out. Later, Minho, Bam Bam and Jin share a meal, laughing and mocking Beam's group. Their friendship grows stronger and Bam Bam suggests forming their own gang, naming it the Rambo Gang. They plan to add more members soon. Just then, another student arrives with news. Bull Gang has made a public announcement. They're organizing a wrestling tournament open to all first-grade students. The winner will earn the chance to join the Bull Gang. Excitement explodes across the schoolyard and students gather in large numbers, many secretly dreaming of joining the feared gang and claiming the power it brings. Some even begin practicing wrestling moves immediately. Membership in the Bull Gang meant influence, protection, and intimidation. Minho and his friends watch the frenzy but remain uninterested. They know Bull Gang members misuse their strength and torment others. Wanting no part in it, the three simply head back to their classroom while everyone else fantasizes about glory. Once Minho settled into his new class, he noticed that Jin was busy practicing fighting techniques. It didn't take him long to realize why. The entire school was essentially under the control of gangs. Survival here wasn't about grades or manners. It was about strength. If he didn't toughen up, his chances of lasting in this school would be slim. Minho, watching Jin with admiration, told him, "You fight really well. Could you teach me too? At least then I'd know how to defend myself." Jin agreed without hesitation. He began showing Minho a variety of combat skills and explained, Fighting is like any other skill. The more you practice, the sharper and stronger it becomes. Surprisingly, Minho picked up the moves with ease. His fighting ability wasn't bad at all, and he quickly mirrored Jin's techniques. Jin admitted that all Minho needed was a little more practice, since his fitness level was already impressive. Determined, Minho returned home and continued training on his own, performing different exercises to increase his strength. Jin even gave him a special drill, balancing his entire body on just 2 fingers to strengthen the bones of his hands. It was excruciatingly difficult, but Minho managed to do it. Because nothing screams normal childhood like trying to break your fingers in the name of fitness. The next morning, Minho walked to school with Bam Bam, chatting along the way. Bam Bam revealed something startling. Once upon a time he had been one of the best fighters in the entire school, so much so that even the most dangerous gangsters feared him. But one day, he made a vow to quit fighting for good. From then on, he promised himself he would never engage in wrongdoing again. Naturally, this didn't sit well with the gangs. They hounded him, constantly trying to provoke fights. As they continued walking, Minho and Bam Bam came across a group of boys bullying a student, snatching money from his bag. Both were furious. Since Bam Bam had sworn off violence, it was Minho who stepped up. Using his newly learned fighting skills, he scared the bullies off. But the story didn't end there. The thugs went straight to members of Bull Gang and reported that Minho and Bam Bam had interfered with their business. Later, when the two returned to class, they found a few boys waiting for them. Among them was Kyoto, a member of the Bull Gang. Kyoto sneered, saying, "So, you've grown the guts to meddle in our affairs, huh? And you, Bam Bam, I thought you'd given up fighting. Why interfere now?" Bam Bam calmly refused to fight, but Kyoto warned that if they ever disrupted their work again, there would be consequences. At that moment, the gang's leader, Jae-noon, arrived. He slapped Kyoto sharply and reminded him, "Don't forget, Bam Bam used to be one of us." Then he turned to Bam Bam, saying he'd heard rumors that he wouldn't be participating in the tournament. Jae-noon insisted he wanted Bam Bam in the competition because he was confident Bam Bam would win and bring power to their gang. But Bam Bam stood firm. He declared he would never join a gang again. His only goal now was to finish school and leave this place behind. Jae-noon's temper flared. He spat back on Bam Bam and said, "Quitting fighting has made you arrogant. Mark my words, one day, you will join my team." With that, he stormed off with his followers. Minho, bewildered, remarked to Bam Bam, "They threatened you, but didn't dare lay a hand on you." Bam Bam replied simply, "Because they know what I'm capable of." After school, Minho visited Bam Bam's house to learn more about his past fighting skills. What he saw left him speechless because Bam Bam was eating 50 boiled eggs in one sitting. At that point, Minho finally discovered the real secret behind Bam Bam's strength: sheer egg-powered madness. Curious, Minho asked why Jae-noon had said he used to be in their line. Bam Bam confessed that he had indeed once been a gangster, constantly fighting, until he realized his mistakes and chose the right path. Now Jae-noon was desperate to lure him back, to make the gang even stronger. The next day at school, Bam Bam received alarming news that members of the Bull Gang had kidnapped his younger brother and taken him to the basketball club. Without hesitation, Bam Bam and his team rushed there. Sure enough, they found the gang bullying his brother. Jae-noon taunted that since Bam Bam wouldn't fight, his brother would have to battle Kyoto. Refusing meant he would be branded a coward. Furious but pressured, Bam Bam's brother accepted the challenge. Before the fight began, Kyoto mocked, "Better arrange a coffin now, because your brother's as good as dead." Bam Bam clenched his fists in rage but forced himself to remain calm. The fight began, and to everyone's surprise, Bam Bam's brother held his ground well against Kyoto. But soon Kyoto used a dirty trick, pinning his foot against the boy's throat. Breaking free, he then beat him viciously, jeering at Bam Bam. "See, you and your brother are nothing alike." Bam Bam's anger reached boiling point, but he restrained himself, knowing the gang was deliberately trying to bait him into fighting again. Eventually, the Bull Gang left the scene. The following day, another boy barged into class with his companions, demanding to see Jin. He mocked Jin, accusing him of ignoring their summons the day before. Jin shot back that he had no time for their useless nonsense. Enraged, the boy cursed and raised his hand to strike. Jin was about to retaliate, but Bam Bam intervened, reminding him that their teacher had already warned that if anyone caught fighting in school would be expelled. But the other team was not there to talk. They had come for a brawl. They picked up whatever they could find in the classroom to use as weapons. Seeing this, Jin and Minho braced themselves to fight. Bam Bam, bound by his vow, couldn't join in. After this scuffle, Minho explained his idea of forming a group to protect weaker students, a sort of shield against bullies. Minho and his friends discussed it seriously. But just then, Kyoto and his crew stormed in again. With a smirk, Kyoto turned to Minho and said mockingly, "So, I hear you think of yourself as some kind of hero now? Be careful in trying to prove you're a hero, don't end up a zero. The only real hero in this school is our boss, Jae-noon. And if you ever dare challenge him, you won't survive." At that very moment, Jae-noon issued a stern warning to Minho, telling him not to flaunt his strength in the school ever again, otherwise he would suffer grave consequences. He kept throwing insults and worthless taunts, deliberately trying to provoke him. Minho's rage flared, his fists tightened, and he was just about to strike when his friends quickly held him back. Meanwhile, Jae-noon began laughing in a strange, unsettling way. The kind of laugh that makes you instantly suspicious that he is plotting something wicked. Later, as Minho and his friends were gathered on the rooftop chatting as usual, a boy heard about everything that had happened earlier and told Bam Bam everything. He was deeply disturbed that Jae-noon had threatened Minho while he had been napping in the classroom. After listening, Bam Bam calmly advised Minho to end it there. "Why take on someone else's problems?" he said. "We came here to study. If we keep getting entangled with gangs and fights, what will become of our future? Better to let things slide and focus on our studies." But this advice ignited a fire in Minho. Furious, he snapped back at Bam Bam and said, "You are a skilled fighter, so how can you stay silent in the face of injustice? If you remain quiet, then you're nothing but selfish." Enraged, Bam Bam almost hit Minho, but once again their friends rushed in to separate them before the argument exploded. That day, Minho stormed off, seething with frustration. He went straight to a gaming arcade and poured his fury into the boxing machine. He punched with such ferocity that his knuckles split open, blood dripping down his hands, a scene that could have easily doubled as a horror movie trailer for the angry student. The following day during lunch break, Minho had dozed off in class when a friend suddenly rushed in, frantically shaking him awake. Breathlessly, he told him that his father had met with an accident. Without wasting even a second, Minho bolted to the hospital. There he saw his father lying in a critical state, and the sight broke him completely. Heart heavy with grief, Minho stopped attending school for several days. Instead, he began working at his father's factory to cover the medical expenses. His duty was to pick up fruits and transport them, a task more exhausting than he had ever imagined. Many times, he stumbled and fell under the weight of the loads, but he still pushed through until the work was finished. For the first time in his life, Minho truly realized the backbreaking effort his father had endured for years just to keep their family afloat. After completing his shift, he sat by his father's bedside, holding his hand, and apologized through tears. In his heart, he silently vowed that he would one day accomplish something significant for his family. One day, while working, Minho was surprised to see his friends arriving at the factory. They had noticed his absence from school and had come to help. Touched, Minho realized that this was the first time he had such friends in his life. With their help, his workload finished quickly, and together they even celebrated with laughter and food. From then on, every day after school, his friends would join him at the factory, turning those heavy hours into moments of shared joy. For Minho, their support lightened not only his tasks but also the sorrows weighing on his heart. But peace never lasted long in this school, as one afternoon, while they were chatting outside the classroom, Kyoto and his crew suddenly appeared. Minho and his friends were about to leave, when fate, as always, decided to add drama. Minho accidentally spilled hot tea onto Kyoto. That single mistake was enough fuel for Kyoto to provoke another fight. With a smirk, he challenged Minho to a duel in the schoolyard. Soon, the field was filled with students, buzzing with anticipation. Jae-noon himself stood there, watching closely. Kyoto puffed out his chest, pretending to be fearless, though in truth he was trembling inside. So, in a move that screamed cowardice more than bravery, he urged his leader Jae-noon to take Minho on instead. From a distance, Bam Bam watched everything unfold. He didn't want to involve himself in fights anymore, but seeing injustice being normalized was something he couldn't tolerate either. If the endless brawls continued, not only would their futures be destroyed, but their friends' lives would always remain in danger. Taking a deep breath, Bam Bam made a decisive choice that he would fight one last time. He boldly approached Jae-noon and declared, "If you want to fight, then do it properly. Face my gang in a final showdown. If you lose, the Bull Gang will disband forever." Jae-noon, cocky as ever, accepted the challenge. Both sides fixed the time and place for the ultimate battle, and preparations began. Inside the classroom, Minho and his friends were riddled with anxiety. Their enemy had far more members, while they numbered only 5. Could they possibly win? The uncertainty gnawed at them, but Bam Bam remained calm. He reached out to his old gangster allies and quickly expanded his team's strength. Finally, the day of reckoning arrived. Both gangs assembled at the battleground, tension hanging in the air like thick smoke. But Bam Bam soon realized that Jae-noon had played dirty, because he had merged forces with the other school gang as well, doubling his numbers. Still, Bam Bam and his team didn't falter. They knew that unity and justice gave them power no numbers could. This wasn't just a brawl, it was a war between right and wrong. The fight broke out with a roar. Everyone fought with every ounce of energy they had. Bam Bam, revealing his true mastery, single-handedly defeated several opponents. Minho too had grown into a formidable fighter and fought fiercely. Against all odds, their team emerged victorious. Jae-noon fumed with rage, but the rules of the challenge bound him. He could do nothing. Bam Bam and his victory sparked celebrations. That evening, they threw a party filled with everyone's favorite dishes, a well-earned feast. The next day, while Minho was eating with 2 of his friends, one of them remarked how noble Bam Bam was. "He always thinks about our future," the boy said, as he doesn't want any gang wars in school. His dream is to build something good and take responsibility for his family. Minho remembered Bam Bam's words about wanting to create a better future, and understood why he tried to stay away from violence. But their conversation was abruptly cut short when Sam came running, panic written all over his face. He delivered dreadful news that Bam Bam was in the hospital in critical condition. The night before, someone had attacked him, striking his head brutally. Shocked and terrified, Minho and all his friends sprinted towards the hospital. At the hospital, Bam Bam's sister sat anxiously by his side. She explained to Minho and the others that her brother had still not regained consciousness, and the doctors could not even predict when or if he would wake up. This news left all of them devastated, but for Minho, the grief was almost unbearable as Bam Bam had always stood by him in times of crisis. Determined, Minho and his friends went straight to the police station, desperate to uncover who had attacked Bam Bam. The officer on duty, however, dismissed their concerns coldly. "This isn't new," he said with a shrug. "School kids fight today, they'll fight again tomorrow. Nothing unusual here, so focus on your studies instead." The indifference infuriated them. Minho realized that relying on the police would achieve nothing. If justice was to be found, it would have to be by his own hands. Dejected, he returned home and lay down silently. His father, now fully recovered, came to his room and asked him to eat. But Minho could hardly swallow, food stuck in his throat like stones. When his father pressed gently, "What's wrong?" Minho finally broke down in tears. He confessed that he was terrified of losing Bam Bam forever, and the fear was consuming him. As these thoughts spiraled, his mind cracked under the pressure. Without saying a word, he stormed out of the house, almost like a man possessed. After relentless searching, he finally tracked down Kyoto. Convinced that Kyoto and his cronies had orchestrated the attack, he confronted him with seething rage. His voice shook with fury as he accused him. "You hurt Bam Bam, and for that, I will not forgive you." He lunged forward and attacked. Kyoto, startled, quickly realized that Minho was a volcano ready to erupt as his eyes blazed with such terrifying fury that even horror movie villains would have applied for early retirement. Trembling, Kyoto swore he had no hand in the assault. Minho, though unconvinced, eventually released him, though the storm in his heart only deepened. Days passed and Minho's close friend Sarang, noticing the unsettling changes in Minho's behavior, invited him to talk. She urged him to stop entangling himself in violence and abandon the search for Bam Bam's attackers. "You'll only endanger yourself further," she warned. But Minho snapped back in defiance. "I will find those responsible and I will take revenge. If you don't want to stand with me, then leave." With that, he stormed away, leaving Sarang speechless and heavy with worry. She now understood that the weight pressing on Minho was far heavier than he could carry alone. Not long after, Minho managed to find Jun, who had been expelled from school because of the incident that even Minho was not aware of. He sought him out because whispers had reached him that at one point, the leader of Bull Gang had offered Jin a large sum of money if he could defeat Bam Bam. The money, Jin had been told, could cover his girlfriend's surgery. Desperate, Jin had agreed, and though he fought, he had failed. Bam Bam's strength overwhelmed him. That led Minho to suspect that Jin might have been behind the later attack as well. When confronted, Jae-noon and his gang members seized the moment, loudly shouting accusations that Jin had indeed assaulted Bam Bam for money. Jin protested vehemently that he had not, but Minho refused to listen. Tension boiled over, and soon fists were flying. Their fight was brutal, both were skilled, but Jin had once been Minho's teacher in combat, yet now, Minho has surpassed him. With sheer power he struck Jin down. Sensing the opportunity, Jae-noon's old teammates swarmed him, attacking while Jin was down. But Minho bellowed so fiercely that his own gang members rushed in, evening the odds. Bam Bam, now fully recovered, also appeared on the scene, fighting by Minho's side. Even Jin, once on the other side, returned and joined Minho's ranks. In a surprising twist, Kyoto and his crew abandoned the Bull Gang and pledged loyalty to this new gang, Minho's group. It turned out that this was all part of a larger plan orchestrated by Minho and his friends. He had deliberately fought Jin to lure Jae-noon and his men into overconfidence, only to crush them once and for all, and it worked. Realizing his grip on the school was slipping, Jae-noon stood before everyone and declared boldly that if Minho could defeat him in direct combat, he would disband the Bull Gang forever. Minho stepped forward without hesitation. Their fight began, but it was short-lived because Minho's opening strike shattered Jae-noon's arm and the once feared leader collapsed. With no other choice, Jae-noon's gang surrendered, humiliated. True to his word, Jae-noon disappeared from the school, never to return. From that day, the school was finally free of gangs. All the students celebrated their victory, laughter, and relief, filling the air. Bam Bam addressed everyone, saying, "No more fights from now on. We must focus on our futures. But remember, if a friend is ever in danger, we stand together. That is the true meaning of friendship." And so, the story closed on a beautiful and hopeful note, proving that even in a world of violence and fear, loyalty and unity could still carve out a brighter ending.